This is Immortal Works Flash Fiction Friday, episode 14, The Witherist, read by Nathan Croft. The Nara, like the withering world behind her, pined for stable ground. Her beaten, broken, shredded sails wallowed in the swells of the eastern shore. A cheery, salty, fresh gale prodded her hull and tugged at her splintered mast. Like a small child, innocent and fickle, even the wind eventually gave in to the Nara's despair and found some gulls to tease, leaving the ship to scatter its own remains among the rocks of the New World. "Look!" a boy shouted as the skeletal timbers sank. "A treasure chest! That's a coffin, yeah? Wither my bones, you think there's a body in it? Fetch keeper and hold your jaw or I'll tell him you're cussing again." The girl smiled. She liked her brother swearing as much as she liked finding the old world's debris in her backyard. Cussin' was life. She argued with anyone she could, in her own company, hours or days after they'd scolded her, but that didn't stop her from using it against her brother like the Aristers used color. The boy smiled as he ran up the hill to the lighthouse. "Good of him to take us in," he minded, knowing he'd need the remembrance during the next scolding. The hill was dry on his feet, the reeds and grasses untouched by even the goats were losing color still. It wasn't even winter, not that we got much of one. Still, if it weren't for the keeper, he knew he and his sister would be in the rocks, under the waves, gathering sick fish and urchins on their old bones. He weaved between the gravestones, all colored like festival flags in the ground, fending off the withering of the dead. The keeper came, but not without muttering his musings about what it really was he was employed keeping. Together, mostly the keeper, hauled a thick gray coffin onto the dull sand, toppled backwards, and complained some more about the dead always washing up when there was work to do. "How big a hole you want?" the boy asked. "I don't want to burn it," the girl pleaded. "This one's pretty. I need a new door, and the old box we gave the goats is leaking food." The keeper looked at her, then at the yellow-orange sky, then the boy. Then he sat up. "Fine. But you both are digging the hole selves and cleaning the box, all right? I'm taking the night off." He stood up. "And painting the bureau. I did the last 3 self while you 2 were picking the guts out of the crabs." The keeper stuck his nose in the sky for a longish while, nodded toward it, and took a fighting stance. The children watched him, wondering which hue he would draw on this time. As if the gentle grandfather world knew their minds and made ready to tell them a story, a swirl of flaxen air began to condense around the keeper's twisting hands. The yellow cloud grew and flowed outward like a sideways rain onto the grasses of the hill. It went into them in the same way that a man's ghost leaves him when he gets too old or too bold. Wilting fibers toughened as they were filled with the forced moisture. They gathered and stretched. Then they bent down toward the skeleton chest, growing slightly in the process, and worked their way beneath it. Like 1,000 tiny snakes buried halfway, head first into the sand, the grass slithered and writhed until the coffin was at the top of the hill. The keeper hit his hands together with a job well done, and the children theirs, with applause for the spectacular display of lighthouse-style art. "And you 2'll need to go down to town again for paint," the keeper announced. "We're out of yellow." When the cart pulled up to their hill from town, with paint, and the items on their last-minute list, the driver hopped off the cart and began handing the lighter things to the children. He fed his animal and began burdening himself with paint skins. "That there," the cart driver said, when he saw the coffin, "ain't no ordinary casket." The keeper glowered. "It's my new door," the girl boasted. "And the new goat's trough," the boy added. "I don't think so," the driver said. "And I think Arch'll want to see this." The keeper said what he was thinking. "Don't worry," the driver told him. "He'll only do a rubbing on it. He'll get the story and send it right back. You can go on keeping it, or making doors and troughs and whatnot else you want." "You tell the Arch," the keeper said, "that he can keep this one himself." The Arch-Arister did keep the mobile mausoleum after he took its story. He kept it long after he learned the story, after he memorized it, and repeated the tale to the whole commune. He kept the casket even after he traveled to the capital, to the great stone cities of the East, and told them the story. He kept it till the day he died, and then the keeper kept it, and he died. Then the children that weren't his kept it, taking turns, living in and out of that old lighthouse with spouses and lovers and friends, and they died. And when their children were dead and buried in that hue-dotted dead man's hill, the new keepers kept it. Ships saw the rainbow light shine on the rocks and the multicolored, bigger than the town cemetery. Some stopped at the little dock around the cape. Most passed by, heading either north or south to cities worth porting in. Eventually the tide stopped beaching debris, and the keepers found themselves having to dig less often. A squat mausoleum was built for the box. Inside it were painted murals of the tale inscribed on its lid. Pilgrims came, travelers, scholars, and historians came, and keepers grew old. The lighthouse became a shrine when a beacon tower was built on top of the wreckage of the famous ship Nara. It had an everflame, shining without the aid of a keeper, eternally violet, like the color of the sky when it was made. Like the sky had been funneled into a glass well and lit ablaze, opposite in hue from the day the Nara crashed. It was said that it was a sign, an omen tribute to the world, a reminder of the past. The story was never forgotten, and after 200 years, when the man inside the coffin emerged, they told it to him. Thanks for listening to Flash Fiction Friday, episode 14. If you have a story, send it in to contact@immortal-works.com.